Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Charm City Church podcast. So thankful that you could join us, not with just me and Michael today, but with a very, very special guest, a very great friend of ours, Reverend Dr. Xavier Small.
Here we go. Pastor Doctor.
Pastor Doctor, welcome to the show. How you feeling?
A little nervous.
A little nervous? Why?
Yeah, because y'all are unpredictable.
He doesn't know what the questions are going to be.
That's true. He doesn't know. I mean, I feel like it's fine.
Okay.
He'll be fine.
I can roll with it.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He's tough.
I can do this.
We don't get unhinged
from the
here.
Bronx.
It's fine. He's from.
I am
from
from
the
the Bronx.
Bronx.
I
He
am
is.
from the Bronx.
It's more hardcore than Baltimore.
They're pretty comparable. What's Baltimore anyway? Not Rosedale.
Well, yeah.
All right, first question.
Question number one, Pastor X.
Okay.
Just tell us about who you are. Tell us your life story. Tell us your testimony.
Like
Who is Reverend Dr. Xavier Small?
And how did you
How
get
you gonna
here?
tell me to tell you my testimony? And you started it like that.
Why not?
Do y'all want what kind? Like
No,
y'all want like
we
my
got all the
salvation
time.
experience?
I want the whole
Experience.
thing. I want the whole thing.
You were just born.
All right. You want all that?
Mhm.
All right. I'll give you the nutshell version. All right. So I was born in Beeville, Texas. So that my mom and dad were both in the Navy. And then so life got pretty interesting pretty quickly. Some kind of head injury happened to me about 4 months, and it almost killed me.
Mhm.
So I had internal bleeding in my brain, which if you ever see me walking with a limp, it's not because I'm swaggy. It's because one of my legs are actually shorter than the other. The whole left side of my body actually is slightly underdeveloped, and I'm legally blind in my right eye. And then so that experience almost killed me. And however it happened, it ended up with my father having legal papers served to him that he wasn't. My mom had to have my father serve with this restraining order, or they would put me in child protective services.
Wow.
So if I have the story right, Mom, if you hear this later, if I'm wrong, correct me. But if I have the story right, after she had me, I believe she got an honorable discharge from the Navy. We moved up to New York and the Bronx, and that's where we spent probably a lot of like my adolescent years, probably till I was like 11. And then a lot of stuff was happening. We had a lot of family dying. We had some family members who were just involved in some wild stuff. But then my youngest uncle got shot up the street from our house. And then, I guess this account of it is subjective, but then my great grandmother had a stroke and died.
How
Shortly
old were
after.
you?
Me?
Yeah.
I was 11.
So you were
10.
11, and those
Yeah.
both happened.
Yeah, so my uncle died 2001.
Mm.
So however old I was at that time,
Mm.
not 10 or 11, I think. And that's when we were like, it's too much. It's too much. And it was a lot. Like my mom did all that she could to really provide for us and all that stuff. But New York just wasn't it. Like there was too much like negative stuff happening. So we moved to Florida. And I think at this time my mom is 22 years older than I am. So she had to be 32, like my age. Moved to Florida. And we were kind of like staying with people as my mom was trying to get herself like stabilized. And I feel like I always feel bad when I start talking about this next part, just because like I didn't have, like, looking back in retrospect, I didn't have a horrible life, but I definitely remember a lot of the hard moments. Like I remember coming home and like there's an eviction notice on the door again. I remember like having dinner by candlelight and it's not by choice. You know what I'm saying? Taking a bath and the water's cold because there's no heat to power the water. You know what I'm saying? I remember my mom getting us food to eat and not eating. Like, I don't know, I remember those things vividly. But I also remember like a lot of good Christmases. I remember having a childhood that I enjoyed. But I also saw some stuff. I remember being 11 years old and the superintendent's son was close to our family and walking me to school. And I remember him like holding my mouth and we like getting down because they're shooting out at the park. So that was the Bronx experience. But then moving to Florida, it was just a lot of it was just instability was probably the best word. Like we weren't staying in a place too long. Just my mom was trying to get on her feet. So a lot of that. And then when I was 12, that's when my church in Orlando, Starlight Baptist Church, they came and knocked on our door and asked us if my mom would be cool with taking me and my siblings on the bus, on the bus. And so we did that. That was my first experience with church.
Yeah. And how old were you at that point?
I was 12.
So trying to keep it chronological. So
Yeah.
10, you moved down Florida. 12,
Yeah.
first church experience.
What was
really.
wild is that after we moved, 9/11 happened.
Okay.
And my mom actually worked for UPS and frequented the World Trade Centers, which was really wild.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to say, like, if I'd be an orphan now or not. But, like, we moved weeks before 9/11. And 9/11's her birthday. So, really eerie.
That's great.
I remember my mom trying to call New York. I remember exactly where we were at. And we weren't in school. We were still at, the DMV trying to get some stuff taken care of. Or the Department of Motor Vehicles. I guess it's the MVA here. And we were trying to and I remember on the news, like, we watched, bomb, that first plane hit, bomb, that second plane hit, like, all this stuff happening. We're calling New York, the signals were busy, like, it was a really wild time. Anyway, so 12, we're here, I got picked up on the church bus. It's my first experience with church. Nothing really happened. I was there, we were going. It was fun. Children's church was fun. Then 14, it's not the first time I heard the gospel, but the first time I responded to it.
Yeah.
And looking back, like, if you want to count salvation for me, then it's 19 years.
Okay.
But I don't know that was actually when I got saved. I think I was scared of going to hell
Yeah.
more than I was trying to, like, God loves me and his son
You
did
get
the
fire
sacrificial
insurance.
gift. Yeah, I did. I was like, nah, I
Fire
don't know what's real or not, but I'm not going. I'm not going.
If it is, I'm not there.
And then things just really started to go downhill from there, actually. So when I was 16, so I was a good kid. Like, I was in school, like, I was in band, I was in chorus, I made good grades, you know what I'm saying? Elected for homecoming court, senior superlatives, all that stuff. I went to a public school. So
Future
I mean,
doctor.
here we go.
Man.
Future doctor award.
I meant
Most likely to succeed, most handsome.
No, definitely not most handsome. I look like an elbow growing up. Like, I look like an elbow, bro. I look like a milk dud. I had no facial hair.
Most muscular legs.
Nah, bro. I'm gonna show y'all some pictures later. And
Put that up.
I bet I'll send you some for the clip. And I remember I was 16 and I was outside, and my neighborhood was one of those neighborhoods where, like, all the kids were outside. Like, we lived on one of those streets that had a cul-de-sac. So, like, we're all outside. Sorry. We're all outside. I'm very gesticulative. We're all outside hanging out, and my sister was outside. I don't know, tank top and some short shorts. We had a lot of kids in our neighborhood. So, big brother. I was like, go in the house and put some clothes on. And she was like, no, I'm not going to put no clothes on. I was like, stop. There's all these boys out here. Go put some clothes on. She said, if you tell me to put clothes on again, I'm going to smack you. And I'm like, you're not going to smack me. You're going to go in the house and go put some clothes on. I mean, in front of the entire neighborhood. She hauled off and just slapped me right across the face. And I blacked out. And me and my sister went to blows in front of the entire neighborhood right there. Now, for a long time, me and my sister were the same height. You know what I mean? I'm short now. I'm only 5'8" and change. You know what I'm saying? But
How old were you in that story?
In this story I'm telling you right now, I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
no. We're not the same height now.
Okay.
As a preference, we weren't the same height at 16.
The story overall.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's about to get worse. Sorry, it's about to get worse. So
Past 7 years.
Yeah, so we are there's a point where I'm naturally a small guy, and growing up, my sister and I were like the same height. And then of course, like, I get older, I get a little bit more muscular. She stops growing, gets more effeminate, more girly. So at this time, I'm like 5'7" and she's 5'1". You know what I'm saying? And but I black out, and we start fighting in the neighborhood. Like, and I mean. At the time, it didn't seem so wild to me because, like, we were fighting in the house all the time. Like, calling my mom. My mom's getting calls because, like, somebody's getting beat up. Like, it's me, her, and my little brother, and we're just having free-for-alls in the house. Like, we were those kind of siblings. Yeah. And I remember, like, we're fighting, we're going to blows outside. She slapped me, so we start fighting. And then next thing I know, the cops are there. And I'm getting slammed on the ground. I'm getting put in handcuffs. and I get thrown in the back of the car. And I'm like, what? I didn't even start this fight. How am
Yeah.
I going to jail?
Yeah.
Did she get arrested too?
No, she didn't. But I look back, and she was...
How's that lady privilege?
Nah, when I look back, she was messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like bruises, like bleeding. Like we were, I mean, like you're 16, like you don't think about, like you should know yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like I didn't realize like how much had changed. Like that was a really big wake up moment for me. That was like, that can never happen again.
I feel like every man has like a situation like that where they realize like, oh, I have like man strength now.
Yeah.
Like
That was that moment for me. Because
Yeah.
usually we be in the house, and I don't think it's ever been that bad. Because like I'm even like, I had anger issues back then, but I really wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't fighting and stuff. That just wasn't
right,
me.
Right.
Not like that. But then I look back and like I could just see all the damage, and that was, I'll never forget like what her face looked like. And so I'm on my way to the precinct. They're driving and swerving and throwing me around. You think you a tough guy fighting girls, you know, all that stuff. And I spent the night in jail. They let me out on home detention, and school was horrible just because, I mean, I was relatively popular. Like, I mean, I was involved in the clubs. So like, I'm a hood kid. So like, I got all my black and my people of color friends, and then I'm in all the white clubs. So like, I got all the white friends as well. So people, you know, and I mean, just word spread fast, and depression set in fast. And I remember that happened probably about a month later. I was just like, in my home life, like again, my mom was a good mom, but the dynamic with me and my siblings, my brother was a gentle giant, but my sister was getting in a lot of trouble. And her and my mom were fighting a lot, like physical fighting a lot. And there were times where like I would pack a bag and take my kid brother with me, and we'd walk 2.5 miles to my friend's house at like 3 o'clock in the morning because my mom and sister are fighting again. The cops are at my house again. You know what I'm saying? So that was the reality. Even like at this point, we have more stability, but like that was just, it was very unstable still.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I was just tired. I was tired. And I remember one day I was like, yeah, I'm done. So I went into my mom's cabinet and I gathered every pill she had. And at this time, I was in the youth department, and my youth pastor was the hardest person to get a hold of. Like, how you responsible for all these kids, and like nobody can get a hold of you.
And how old are you at this point?
I'm 16.
Okay.
Still, this is the same year.
Is how long in between this and you getting arrested? Like how?
So getting arrested up until this point, it's got to be like a month.
Okay.
Maybe
So
a little more, pretty quick.
Pretty quick. Half.
And I'm just like, I was already going through it because a lot of that stuff was happening at my house anyway. And then I was like, yeah, this was the tipping point.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm done. So I gathered all that stuff and I said, if my youth pastor doesn't answer the phone, I'm going to take all these pills and I'm going to kill myself. I'm done. And so I call him, and he answers the phone. It rings like 2 times. He answers the phone. He said, "Hey, bud, what's up?" I said, "Nothing. I'm about to kill myself." He has no idea. He has no idea what's about to happen.
Like, oh, one of my kids are
He
calling
has
me.
no idea. I mean, like, you know, my mom's got everything in there from aspirin to like, you know, ibuprofen to Oxycontin, like all this other stuff, just from different procedures, you know, penicillin, all this other stuff. And so I gathered everything she had, everything. And I don't even think my mom knows this in detail. So, Mom, when you hear this, I'm sorry that you heard it now, you know, all this time later, but it is what it is. And he answers the phone. He says, "Hey, bud, what's up?" I said, "Nothing. I'm just about to kill myself."
That's actually what
That's
you
exactly.
said.
I mean, no LOLs. Just
That's
that cold.
That's a sentence to hear.
I've never gotten anybody say anything like that to me ever.
Oh wow.
I can't imagine how he was feeling at that time. And he's never brought it up.
Yeah.
And he said, "What'd you say?" I said, "You heard me." And so he said, "Stay on the phone." So he just like raced over to the house. And well, I mean, I could hear his trucks, you know, his tires screeches. He's running up to my house. And he's like, "What's going on?" And he grabs me, and I just cry, and I cry, and I cry, and I cry, and I cry. And he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm just tired. I'm tired. And so at that point, he just like takes me under his wing. He was doing like some part-time like business work. Like he's a minister, but like he's a really like business oriented person. So he was working with a couple different big organizations in our city, doing some stuff. And he was taking me to work with him, checking in on me. Like that Christmas, he bought me my first pair of Jordans. Like, and this is country white guy from North Carolina, and it's a broken kid from the Bronx, right? And so that happens. That next April, we're at church, and he's sharing the gospel, and something just clicked for me that time, where I realized more than like, I already knew about sinners going to hell, but like the love of God was real to me, I think, for the first time. And so they did the invitation, and I was like, yeah, I got to get this taken care of. And that was the changing point in my life. That was April 2009. Changing point in my life. Like all the stuff that had happened, all the stuff that happened with my family, all the stuff that I was personally going through, the suicidal ideation, all that, like this was the changing point. And I bowed my head, I trusted Christ as my savior, and God was like, all right, now that you're at this point, I'm ready to work. Yeah. Right?
And that's what, a year after?
Not even.
Not even.
That's like 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to see God working in your life in that way. You know, like going from just arrested to then, hey, if this guy who never answers the phone doesn't answer, I'm going to kill myself. Oh, he answers. Yeah. Comes to your house, takes you under his wing, which is also something that there are a lot of people out there that even if you said that to them, they may care for a little bit, but then eventually would have let you like slip off because they have other things going on. Yeah. But he took you under his wing for a long amount of time, and then that's just crazy. Yeah. To think about God working in that way.
So what a pastor does. Is he cares for the sheep that he has. Yeah. It's not just a preacher. It's a man that will be with his people in the hard times, and we have too many people out there that are just preaching, that are just content with getting up on Sundays and getting up on Wednesdays, whenever they're doing it, and they're just giving a word and they're getting off and they're running away. And you don't hear from them.
Yeah. And he really like did not let me out of his sight, like legit. And so that happened. I made that happen. Immediately he starts discipling me. He's like, you don't miss church. You come to all the stuff. You come to all the youth activities. You come to every service. Like, you don't miss. You get involved in teen choir. You don't miss. And so that happened. And then that summer, have y'all ever heard of Dr. Johnny Pope?
Yeah.
And Dr. Johnny Pope? No, Dr. Johnny Pope, he's out of Arkansas. But he's a pretty big name in the independent fundamental Baptist circles.
Makes sense why I don't know it.
Yeah.
Throw the PCC a few times.
Yeah, he did. And that's where I initially, but like apparently like my lead pastor of the church that I was at that time and him were really good friends because they're both from Arkansas. Anyway, so he comes and does a conference in the summer, and he's preaching. Honestly, I remember the sermon like it was yesterday. He was preaching about the rich man and Lazarus. Nothing to do with anything that I really was like, at this point, no, at all. Right. I'm saved already several months, you know what I'm saying? 6 months, 7 months at this time, 6 months. And I was not really like, nothing's new is really going on. And so they do the come forward invitations like the fundies typically do. Right. And the Lord.
Trust in Jesus.
Huh?
If you want to trust in Jesus.
Yes.
As we play this.
Right now. Get on up. Right now.
As we play all these minor keys.
I see that hand.
Right
no
now.
hands. No hands.
Hey,
up.
chill.
Nobody's here.
Hey, I did that last week, so chill.
No, but you're like, I see that hand. I see that hand.
I'm not saying it's not a useful tactic. I'm just saying. It's
lying from the pulpit.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Y'all are wild for that. And the Holy Spirit's like, I need you to surrender to me. Like, now that you're at this point, like last fall, you were at rock bottom and you didn't see any way out but to like end your life. And now I'm about to take you forward. He's like, I need you to surrender to me. And I was like, what the heck? Absolutely not. Like, I come from a poor family. What do you mean? Like, ministry is not lucrative. Yeah. I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even have to know a whole lot about like wages and salaries and all that stuff. I knew that pastors wasn't it. So I was thinking like, I'm about to be the generational change in my family. I'm about to go be a lawyer. Yeah. I'm about to go do something.
Be a doctor.
He got there one way or another.
Isn't that wild? I'm gonna get to that. So So like that was so like all that stuff. I was like, nah, I'm fighting it. And then so like I went forward. I found my youth pastor. I said, I really think God's calling me to ministry, but I'm not about that. No. I'm not that. So would you pray for me? So that happened probably about like a week and a half later. My youth pastor and my lead pastor both take me to breakfast, and they ripped ministry apart like like they were atheists. Like they were like, this is what happens. The people treat you like this. The money's not good. Like if you can do anything else in the world, you should probably go do that. Ministry's not it. And I'm like, what? Y'all weird. Like, do y'all know what profession you're in? Yeah. You know? And I walked away from that, and like I could not sleep. Like days and days and days and days, I could not sleep. I couldn't focus in school. Like I was just not able to like function well.
They gave to you though?
That's all they did. They were trying to convince you not to do it. They were trying to talk me out of it.
Oh wow.
They told me that was what they were doing.
It would be like, but
no,
serving the Lord is his own reward.
No,
they were like,
no,
they're trying to convince them not to.
Nope. And they told me that up front. They're like, we're taking you to this breakfast, but we're here to tell you why you shouldn't do it.
So are they disappointed?
No.
Of course not.
You're crazy. Nah. It was all that, and then after probably like 2 weeks of me honestly just like wrestling with the Lord, I said, fine. I said, Brother Mike, that's my youth pastor's name. I said, Brother Mike, God's calling me to ministry. I'm going to surrender. Amen. And then he said, okay. So they met with me again. They prayed over me. That was the summer. In the fall, I was going into my senior year of high school. It was a great year. And then I went to PCC the next summer. So like I filled out some applications. I wasn't hearing anything back. I said, God, whatever school comes back first is what I'll go to, because like the deadline's coming and I'm going to be left out. And PCC came back first. And I was like,
that's gotta be it.
No. But I honored it. And the only reason I went is because like my good friend Brianna was already at PCC. Yeah. And so I was like, if she's there, like I won't be by myself. You know what I'm saying? I'll apply, but I'm not going. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's too strict. I've been grown since I was 14 and y'all got lights out. No thanks. You know?
What time was it at that point?
What time did you have to be
lights out?
Lights out at that point, 11.
11 o'clock
11
every
o'clock
day, every night.
No, on the weekends.
It wasn't like being in, like, it was like you are asleep, like lights out.
Yeah.
Like not being in your room, like your lights
in your room, in your bed, lights out. They catch you up.
Your phone has to be put away.
The Z's are coming.
They even see the light through your door. It's a wrap. You're getting demerits. It's a wrap. That's the piece.
So that was 11 Monday to or Sunday to Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday you get a little bit. You get 11:30.
Yeah, something like that.
You get a little 30 minutes.
Something like that. How was it for you when y'all didn't have lights out? I know lights out was different for y'all.
They came in and they were like, most of the time they just open the door, be like, night, and then just walk away.
Weren't you an RA at some point?
No, I roomed with an RA, so that was like the best year because I did nothing.
Yeah,
I did because he was
abuse of power.
He was a campus RA.
Yeah,
so he never actually like went he never did like lights out or anything like that. He just was only ever at like events.
Sure,
but it still counted like us as an RA room. So just me and him on an end room. It was wonderful. We had a great time. I had a wonderful time. But no, PCC was like still 10:25. You had to be in the building. 11 o'clock was lights out. But it was like they walked around and were like,
nothing happens good after 11. 11:01.
11:01. It's over.
Sin City.
It's nasty. But so spring you get saved, right?
Yeah.
Spring you get saved. Summer you surrender.
Yeah.
I love how you brought that up, the difference between salvation and surrender.
Yeah.
Because you get saved and you commit to Jesus, but you're not really sure what that really means.
Right.
And then you have to come to another point, and I feel like we're constantly hitting these thresholds in our life where we hit another point of surrender. But you hit that point of surrender at summer, so now fall. You were in high school, right? And then you went through high school, and now you went to PCC, and that's where you take over.
That happened. I went to visit the campus. Honestly, I felt like God was like, "Yeah, this is your next step. I need you here. I need to structure you." So I went through that. I went through all that. Graduated 2014, and then that summer, just skipping some minor details. That summer, I was gonna go back to PTS, Pensacola Theological Seminary. My pastor kind of vetoes that and was like, "They got distance learning now. The harvest is plenteous. You know what I'm saying? You should serve now."
Yeah.
And just do it online. You know what I'm saying? So I prayed. I actually fasted 1 day a week that summer, every week. I was like, God, I want to see you show up for me. Like, show me what I need to be doing. So it came down. I prayed, Lord, help me to find like a church that, and what's funny is that by this time, you're a ministerial seminar, right? So by the time I was at ministerial seminar, which like the preacher boys class, we had a big group. It was like 160 of us. Like it was big.
No, it was about 200.
Yeah. So okay, so y'all was even bigger. It looks like. So it was a big group, and I was the president of that class.
Oh,
I was senior class. I was the president. So stop it. You trying to make something out of nothing.
Pastor,
there's a reason why I say it. There's a reason why I say that.
What did the president do? We have voted on people.
You did.
And I had no idea what it like. My senior year, we're voting on this president, and I have absolutely no clue what they do.
I don't remember what I did.
It was,
I think I was just decoration.
I think it was just like a formality.
It was something nice to put on your resume.
It was.
Anyway,
but
so
the reality is most of the people that are listening to this podcast have no clue what the heck you guys are talking about. So you want to give a little bit of like insight of what the heck you're talking
preacher
about?
Boys class. It's got a lot of dudes in it, and all the dudes pick the head dude.
Why you gotta say it like that?
and it meant nothing.
This was in a Christian college.
This was at a Christian college.
All the pastors.
Wait, hold on.
Future
Andrews,
pastors. Yeah.
Pastor Andrew.
Yeah.
So it was ministerial seminar. It was training. It was training for ministry. They go through homiletics.
Yeah.
They teach you how to preach, hone your preaching style. You work through like what it means to be a minister. You go through internships, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But even still, like what you were saying wasn't wrong. Like it was like we had officers, but other than lead the meetings, it really wasn't a whole lot of anything else. But the reason why I brought that up is because we had that period where like you wear your little name badge and people come for the career day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm over here like I'm the ministerial class president. They gotta want to have me come to their ministry, and nobody said jack.
Really?
And so, not that there's anything wrong with bivocational work, but at that point, I was like, I didn't go through all the school and all the struggle to work at Walmart.
No.
So I'm going to PTS. I'm just going to go to grad school because I'm not going to just go work a secular job.
You could have been a greeter.
Huh?
You would have been the best greeter.
I would have. You see the smile?
You would have been the best
Here's a
greeter.
sticker.
Let me check your receipts.
Put a cross on everyone.
I would have tattooed it on them.
Oh my God.
So they were. No, I didn't believe in tattoos at that time. So if only they could see me now.
Only you could
they actually can see me now, but if only, bro, if the old me could see the new me, he would fall out of his chair. Like he would throw up. People like, you did what? Your hair looked like what? You got how many tattoos? Like there's a lot going on.
Is that an NIV?
I didn't swing that far left.
Oh.
He's still a New King James.
That's how y'all get down that Charm City. Yikes!
No, we use CSB.
I'm not coming back.
We use CSB.
I'm not going back. I'm not going back.
Christian
to
Standard Bible.
That's a standard.
It's a Christian standard.
Oh, okay.
Christian standard for all Christians everywhere.
For all Christians. Yeah.
Yikes! Charm City Church.
King James didn't make our Bible.
Hey, look.
So anyways,
yeah.
so you get out. You're in college. President, graduate.
Yeah. Nobody selects me. No one. So I'm gonna go to grad. Yeah. I want to go to grad school, and that's when my pastor. That's when my pastor kind of vetoes it, and I'm there. And honestly, God brings me to like my dream church. But I was stepping out on faith because I knew that I was breaking like my contract already. And I had prayed. I remember I had fasted all summer, and God was like, "Nah, I want you to go ahead and go. I want you to not go back, and I want you to stay and pray about God bringing you to a ministry here." I said, "God, I want to be a part of a school that had a church that had a Christian school. I could work with them. I could work with the music ministry some way, and that I could also. I want to be a youth pastor. That's what I was. I was a youth ministry major. So I felt like God just put like the perfect church for me, like in my lap. And that church, I was still unsure, but I said, Lord, I'm gonna step out on faith, right? And I said, God, even the week I was there, I said, God, will you show me that this is real, that I made the right decision, I didn't blow it. And I preached the first chapel of our for a school that Wednesday, and I gave the invitation the same way that you made fun of just now. And I said, if you don't know for sure that Jesus Christ is your personal Lord and Savior, but you would like to know, with your head bowed, eyes closed, raise your hand so I can pray for you. And hands went up everywhere.
He did see that hand.
Hands went up. He did. He did see. He saw all 39 hands. And we came and we had chapel at the end of the day. And all those hands went up and I just got emotional and I could hear the Spirit of the Lord said, do you believe me now? And that was like confirmation for me. Like the souls weren't about me, but God's like, I'm getting ready to do great and mighty things, which it's not. Right. And so that happened. Fast forward 3 years, my lead pastor steps down. I become the interim pastor of that church. I was ordained by this time. And after 6 weeks, I go through all of this stuff.
They ordain you without a wife?
I was married at this time. Oh yeah, I did. So y'all, I met this fly
I'm trying
honey.
to save you here. I'm trying to throw you a life.
Actually, me and Kalea started the same day. She was a secretary to the principal at our Christian school, and I was a youth pastor. And I walked in the front office that first day, which was where their desks were, and her back was to the door, so all I could see was her hair. Now, if I know my wife, she got this big curly hair. I was like, man, that's a lot of hair. And I said, that's a lot of hair.
The first thing
it is. That's the first thing I thought. I said, I walked in the office. I don't remember the color or nothing.
Yeah, Becca. That's what I thought about Becca too.
I was like, that's a lot of hair. And she turned around, and I was like, yo, she's fine. But at this time, I looked like an elbow. I was broke. I had no style. There was no way that she was gonna be with somebody like me.
You got the picture,
bro. Pastor Stone, if you want clips for that joint, I got you. I got pictures for y'all.
We can put pictures.
I'm okay. I'm secure now.
So this was after college.
This was after college.
When you started working for the church.
Yeah, and so I graduated in 2014. That summer, it ended up working out where I became the youth pastor of that church. And Kalea and I met that day. Kalea and I actually didn't go on our first date till 2016, so 2 years later. And then why? Well, I was interested, but then a friend of mine who I found out actually was interested in me told me that Kalea had a boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
And my philosophy is that if you can steal them from somebody can steal them from you, right? So I was like, I don't even want to go down that road, so I'm gonna leave her alone. And then so after that, then I got another picture right here at this point that I'm gonna send y'all of me doing my best to like Mac on Kalea.
Okay.
Yeah, and then and so.
Well, what was the first thing you said to her?
It wasn't nothing really special. Like I was just trying to get to know her. But she wasn't having it. Like I would ask her stuff like, "What's your favorite color?" She'd be like, "Red."
So like in passing, like you would try to spark conversation.
We were friends at this point, but like I didn't see that she was interested or whatever. But I knew that I was definitely interested. But while I knew that she was with somebody, or I thought she was with somebody, like I didn't try to make any moves. I just kept it really cordial. And then, but once I realized that this girl was lying, I was like, "Oh, bet it's on," right? And so, just little stuff, trying to play 20 questions with her, and she just really wasn't buying it or whatever. But I remember the day, but what's funny is that like when I met her that day, I walked out of that office and I was like, that's my wife. No funny stuff. Like you always hear like little like not weird, but like little like cliche stories like that. But I kid you not, like I walked out of the office and I was like, she's for me.
They're weird when they don't happen.
Oh.
They're weird when they don't come to fruition. But then, that's my wife.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, it's like, it's not their wife. It's someone else's wife.
Yeah. Hey, the weird kids be doing that though. They be like, do you know that you're my wife? No.
They do.
It's really weird.
Especially at schools like PCC.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything because I knew that was some weird stuff. I didn't say anything, but I was like, that's my wife. And what's funny is I remember like I was on her Facebook. We were Facebook friends, but I'd be lurking. So I was, and she had a profile picture up.
MySpace?
Huh?
Listen.
No.
Her MySpace.
At this point, MySpace was out, but I was on MySpace.
Gmail chat, G-chat.
Nah, it was Facebook at this time. So I got okay. That's way too advanced. You don't even have your timelines right.
Well, you said what? 14, 15?
2014.
Google Plus was around then.
I guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't using it.
That was like the height of Google Plus.
I wasn't using it.
It was a height for like 3 months. That was how long it lasted.
Why do you know so much about Google
Taylor,
Plus?
your husband is mad nerdy.
I have no clue.
Your husband is mad nerdy.
I have no clue.
Look at her hiding behind the screen right now. She don't even want to see you.
Where's Josh? Josh would speak my language. I need Josh.
I'm glad Josh is not here. We don't need too much of that.
I need Josh.
Anyway, so like I knew I was like looking at her profile picture. She has a twin brother. And I was like, you don't even know, but I want to marry your sister. That's what I said to the picture.
I thought you said...
No, not to him.
You said to the picture.
Not to him. To the picture.
He's texted him.
It was like
I'm about to marry
her profile picture was her and her brother, and I was like, you don't even know, but I'm gonna marry your sister. And then I found out that she was taken, and then or it really wasn't, but somebody was lying.
Right.
And then we went on a date. 2016 was our first date, and I thought it was a smooth date. It really wasn't. And then by our third date,
what does that mean?
Well, I thought like. Listen, so like I'm a big fan of the nice dates, but I'm like, look, I'm gonna show her that I'm cultured, I'm down to earth, I'm gonna take her to this hole in the wall cheesecake spot, you know what I'm saying? So like she can see like, Orlando had these cultural places, whatever. I thought I was doing something, but it really wasn't. She was like later on, she was like that cheesesteak was dry, and she was like that was not it. And I was like, well, I'm glad you gave me a second chance because that definitely wasn't it.
I mean, like how are you gonna know?
And it wasn't. That was my first time dating somebody when I was in high school you be dating, but you're not really doing nothing. You see each other at school and you talk on the phone at home, but that's it. Listen, she was like my first. She wasn't my first date, but my first like somebody else taking somebody.
This guy started dating at 12 years old, 13. So
he hopped out the womb.
They probably didn't even have phones.
There was a time I had it. We were like
passing notes,
like a little slide phone,
bro.
Keyboard.
They had one of those things, the two cans connected with a string.
Bro, Mrs. Shite had just popped Taylor out, bro, and Andrew was like,
"That is my wife."
And Andrew was like, "That's
that, I need to clarify. I'm only 12 days older than her." That comment,
that is
not
wife.
appreciative.
Mrs. Shite just popped her out, bro. She was recovering postpartum. And Andrew was already on it.
She said, that is my wife. You'll know it.
You'll know it. You know it.
I looked at her.
She doesn't even have her first pair of shoes.
He spit up a little bit.
She didn't have any siblings. I just looked at Jason right away. That's disgusting.
It's like Boss Baby. That's what I imagine. Like Boss Baby.
Rolled up with the suit.
You got like a little thing. You're like, that's gonna be my wife one day.
I'm dead. Okay. Let me hurry up. So third date was actually whack, and she came into my office like the next week and was like, "This is not it."
Oh.
She was like, "I don't think this is gonna work." And I had already went through a really heavy breakup at college, where I fought God on the person, and I paid for that. Mm. And so I was like, God, I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight you this time. If she's ready to go, and we were still friends and we were still talking or whatever, but like we weren't like seeing each other, we weren't dating or anything like that. And then I remember exactly where I was at. I don't know, maybe Calais, if you listen to this, maybe you was gold digging a little bit. Like, well, wait till you hear this. So this was in the fall of 2016, or of 2015. That was it. Yeah. Spring of 2016. Listen to me. It's February 13th. I'm with my kids at a tournament, and Kalea shoots me a text, and she's like, "I think I made a mistake.
Oh,
would you be willing to give us another chance?" And I'm like, "What?" She caught it off the rim. She caught it off the rim and put it back, and I was like, "She trying to get with me so she can get a present for Valentine's Day?" But nah, it wasn't that. So,
did you get her something?
Huh?
Did you get her something?
Nah.
Oh wow!
We weren't.
You made sure.
I told her I need to think about it because like I was like I need some time to make sure that this is it because you broke my heart already. Oh, so, long story short, we ended up dating. March 28th actually of 2016 is when we started dating officially, and then December 24th I asked her to marry me, and we got married the next year.
Nice.
But while we were engaged, that summer I got ordained.
Okay.
So that's how that happened. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool story. We love telling our story. And what's funny, she told me later on that when she met me, she thought I was her husband. She told me that later.
Dang.
Yeah.
She was looking at a picture of you.
She was. She's like, that's going to be my husband. He looked like an elbow, but he's for me. It's my elbow. Anyway, I barely had any facial hair. It was rough. Anyway, so like, so that was happening. And so 2018, my pastor lets me know he's moving on. I become the interim pastor. After 8 weeks, they vote me in. And then that's where I was for 2.5 years, almost 3, when Rosedale called me and asked me to come.
How'd you get the connection with Rosedale?
Stephen Toole and I went to school together.
That was at the time, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Stephen Toole went to school.
Were you in the same collegiate?
Nah, he was a Stingray.
Yeah.
I was a Falcon.
So was I.
Stop talking about this
stuff.
You
were what? A Stingray? Okay.
Stop talking about this stuff no one knows or cares about.
Zeta Chi Delta, it's a frat, but not really. You actually don't get a choice. They make you pick one.
Yeah, they make you pick a frat.
They make you pick one. And then I try
You don't have, there are no frats at PCC.
They're called collegians. They're called collegians, and you don't get a choice.
But I had the most immense amount of pride when we went back-to-back basketball champs.
I don't care about that at all.
No, I don't care either. I never went to any of the games, but I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
All the black guys tried to join the Black Panthers, and the school wouldn't let us.
The
school wouldn't let us do it. The school actually got a letter that was like, too many of y'all are trying to join that. No. We realized that it's your first choice, but crazy.
No. We realized that's your first choice.
Yes, because you had to put it on your order. You had to put it in order. I put the Panthers first because all the black guys are going to the Panthers, and it was like, nah, y'all not doing that. God. We see what y'all are trying to do, but we're not going to make the Black Panthers at school. No, thank you. I feel like somebody probably must have had to do it, try it before.
That's crazy.
But I say all that to say is like, it was so wild to see like how I went through like, and I mean, and when I surrendered to the ministry, that wasn't the end of hardships, you know what I'm saying? But like when I look back, like God just like put me like on a fast track, and he just was like milestone. And even now, I still feel like, honestly, I feel like I haven't plateaued yet.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's just every step that I've been taking, I feel like God's just been pushing me forward. And I mean, and transparently, there are a lot of times where like I think like, is this what it means to be like many are called but few are chosen? Like, and that's kind of what goes in my mind. Like, God, what you must have, like all the things that I went through, like you were preparing me to do some wild stuff, right? And so like I still feel like I'm still living that. So when I reflect on now that I'm 32, right?
I feel like a lot of that stuff has helped you in your occupation.
Oh yeah. There
and we want to get into a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So you want to talk just a little bit about your credentials before we get into some like mental health topics.
So ministry wise, I'm an ordained minister, licensed and ordained. And then I guess like vocationally, like I'm a mental health therapist. I have what's called a license. I'm a licensed graduate professional counselor. So like it's not a provisional license because it's a license to practice, but it's not a full license.
Yeah.
Actually, this September I'll have my full license. I've already met all my criteria for it. It just basically means I practice without supervision.
Okay, so with that, like, so the full license is you practice without supervision?
Without supervision, yeah. So I have a clinical supervisor that I meet with once a week.
Oh, okay. So like at that point you could like start your own practice.
In essence, yeah.
Okay.
I mean that's what I did at Rosedale.
Right.
But she's just the one signing like my notes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get that.
So yeah, it's pretty dope actually. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'll be fully licensed in September. And so at Rosedale Baptist Church, where I'm the counseling pastor there, I see everything from like anxiety, depression, acute stress, a lot of couples, a lot of families. But then I also am a therapist at a place called Hartford Belair Community Mental Health Center. It's a outpatient mental health center in the city. I have 2 roles there. The first role is I work with the interns of all the bachelor's through master's programs. And then I also see people with chronic disorders, bipolar, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar psychotic features, depression psychotic features, a lot of all of that other stuff. So that's pretty cool. So I feel like that's allowed me in the last 3 years to have a pretty deep bag of like just dealing with the general, what we call like the worries and the woes, and then also getting to work with a lot of like the pervasive symptoms that come with like chronic mental health illness. So that's dealing with that, medications, wraparound services. So people who are getting them back to like a functioning level, not just mentally and emotionally, but helping them kind of get their life back in order, and being able to help them, like help people get Medicaid, get MTA transportation, ride services, help them apply for disability.
And you're working toward your doctor as well.
Yes. So I'm a second year doc student.
Okay.
I probably got about a year to go.
Okay.
Before I'm done. So I'm in second. I just finished my first draft of my second chapter. There's 5 chapters typically in a dissertation, and so I'll be doing an independent study this summer. That's gonna help me to kind of get some of that cleaned up. So hopefully I can do that. You have 2 main stages: a proposal stage where they basically give you permission to conduct your research after this, and then hopefully I can defend the dissertation late fall, early spring.
That's awesome.
And then hopefully I'll be doctor.
Are you allowed to say what that research is on?
Yeah, so I'm doing a qualitative dissertation on counselor preparedness, on whether or not counselors are entering the field prepared to practice. And that basically came because like when I got my license, they didn't even send me a certificate, bro. They sent me an email and was like, here's your license number, here's your expiration date, good luck.
And it was right under the Jiffy Lube email. In
my spam folder. And I was like, yeah, I felt just like abandoned. Yes, bro. Basically, she was like, congratulations, counselor. Make sure that you see the information below. Thank you. And I never heard from her again. And so I hated that feeling of feeling like abandoned. And if I didn't have my mentor and supervisor, Tracy Hunt, she actually just defended her dissertation last week. She's Dr. Tracy Hunt now. So
that's awesome.
And if she didn't have me, I would have been so lost. So I just felt like God was just ordering my steps every step of the way. So this has been great. It's been a great experience. And
so with that, are you wanting to take that information and make the licensing process more of a formal thing and make that to where it's like you are like giving them more charge as counselors to take responsibility for what they have?
Oh yeah, I'm coming for blood. Like I was like, I don't want anybody to feel like abandoned like that ever again. So like I'm already working with interns at like our site at the mental health center, but I want to get on the university level, and I want to be able to work with the practicum and internship stage. And like I want people to know like what are your options. What can you do postgraduate? How do you prepare for your exam? How much money should you prepare? Did you know that you may not, once your degree is conferred, it may be 6 months before you can sit for your test? Do you have a job lined up so that you can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I just was like, if I didn't have somebody like holding my hand, I would have been completely unprepared.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the majority of what people are experiencing. And then once I'm looking at the research, genetic counseling, school counseling, dealing with urban youth, dealing with all these, you can name a bunch of stuff. They're unprepared. They're unprepared. I'm like, so we dropping the ball somewhere. So like I want to help with the preparation both on vocationally and just preparedness.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like hit all the universities with this.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
I was gonna say, just transitioning a little bit into mental health within Christianity. I know we're about, how much are we in now? About 45 minutes. Yeah. So, transitioning into some of mental health and Christianity, you know, growing up, a lot has changed within mental health and just culture. How have you seen really just mental health and Christianity change over, you know, since you've been studying, I guess, the last 8 years or so?
Yeah. I didn't really pay mental health a lot of attention. Like I know I had that depressive experience. Looking back, I can see how I was very wildly depressed. But I mean, honestly, especially in the Black community, like mental health's not a thing. And like for lack of a better phrase, you hear like those are white people problems. We don't do that, you know. And that's such toxic mentality, you know. And so it wasn't until I was pastoring already and I realized like, wow, we don't have a counseling center, you know, anywhere near us. And that's what kind of started me on that journey toward it. But I think what's really helping though is that millennials are really leading the charge on like mental health being acceptable. Like people are going through stuff. And I feel like that age of acceptance probably pushed too far to the other side a little bit in some ways. Everybody, like me and my coworker were talking about how everybody on TikTok wants to be autistic. Like, why do you want that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So some people kind of like, it's become popularized in some areas. So I feel like there's blessing and curses that come with that. You know what I'm saying? So like
do you feel like because we talk about it so much, that sometimes people, especially just talking about in the Christian world, you know, like they'll want to lean more on, you know, counseling or even medicinal usage rather than on God and on their faith? Do you think that's happened a little bit?
No, I still think the church is dragging its feet a little bit. I think our parents, you know what I'm saying, like, and all of their kids are starting to push that envelope a little bit, because I've definitely in the Christian space has been working with a lot of teenagers who are experiencing mental health, and their parents almost go kicking and screaming. It's like if their kid's not like impatient because they're having suicidal thoughts, then they're like, well, I guess we should probably pay some attention to this. So I feel like now that's been happening a lot, like people are starting to take it seriously. But like I'm a big fan of like weaponizing the word of God to like show them like how foolish like some of this thinking is. Like I got to preach a message at Rosedale about just Elijah after battling the 450 prophets of Baal, and I'm like, let me show you what Elijah's symptoms are, and here are the symptoms of major depressive disorder according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and tell me they don't look the same. You know, depressed mood, low energy, low appetite, suicidal ideation. I mean, Elijah went out he left his servant with him and went out a day's journey into the wilderness by himself. You know, the angel of the Lord had to wake him up and make him eat. You know what I'm saying? He kept going back to sleep. He said, you know, he talking to God and say and petitioned for God that he might die. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that. You know what I'm saying? So being able to take some of those instances, I mean, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Like, don't be anxious. You know what I'm saying? So like these themes, I don't think that poor mental health is of God, but I think God takes time to address it. So that's been my mission the last like 3 years of just kind of let me show you like how God supports, you know what I'm saying? These different things, and even how some secular theories like cognitive behavioral theory lines up with passages like Philippians 4.
I was just saying, like, I know from my own experience of struggling with some anxiety and depression that it seemed like when I would go to counseling, the first thing would be like, oh, let's get you on this medication.
Yeah.
And then the medication seemed to be the first option. And then it was like once I was on it, and I felt like, you know, I do believe medication can help get you to level, to a place where you can process and handle it. But I felt like they wanted me just to stay on it indefinitely, where I felt like God had moved me to a place where I was, where he had leveled me out. Like I was okay. I processed it.
Sure.
And so that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know, like allowing God and the Holy Spirit also to help in those situations rather than be like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think being able to go take that route is being a good steward of what God is putting in front of you. Yeah. Like when I broke my leg in 2014, like they put me on Oxycontin and hydrocodone so I could manage it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we never questioned that. Yeah. But when it comes to our mental health, it's like, oh, it's not that deep. Get over it. You know. But at the same time, when you think about medication, right, just super quick. When you think about medication, if they're given medication, it's because they're trying to correct a chemical imbalance. Yeah. They're trying to get you from -10 to 0. Yeah. Right. So that at that point where now you're functioning, like your body is doing what it's supposed to do, then your coping skills can really work. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so depending on what's going on, the medication can help get you there, and then you can slowly wean yourself off, and your coping skills can take you the rest of the way. But for bipolar, for schizophrenia, for ADHD, there's no cure for that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they'll be on medication indefinitely. And now we're seeing a lot of adults right now that I'm sending back to psychiatrists for ADHD evaluation because their parents are like, nah, we're not putting my kids that label, giving my kids that label. We're not putting them on no pills. And now they're fighting for their lives trying to make it because they're not functioning well. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends. But I think and the highest efficacy for mental health treatment is medication and psychotherapy. You know what I'm saying? So those have proven to be the best results. But I think just as you would go to the doctor, you know what I'm saying?
Using medication as a crutch. Yeah. Rather than like, for most cases, you know, there obviously are some cases where there's serious chemical imbalances. Sure. But for most cases, using medication as a crutch rather than like a permanent solution.
And even at HB, if somebody gets on, let's say they get on a psychotropic medication, like they can't get that and not go to therapy. Yeah. If you're not going to be treatment compliant, we're not prescribing you this because we want you to be making sure that you're working on the coping mechanisms that's available for you to be able to have like a victorious life, you know. And in Christian spaces, a victorious Christian living. You know what I'm saying? So like you be able to cope with it and work with it well. So it's a hit and miss. Some people are like, nah, like I don't need the pill. You know what I'm saying? But I'm learning more people that's like, if that's what's necessary, then I'll do it. But I also want to work on the skills.
I think I wanted it because I almost looked to it as my solution. Sure. Because I was, in some cases, I was so desperate that I looked to it. I think I almost looked to it too much in a way as my safety. And that's why when God had really helped me process, I just went straight off of it. Yeah. And I was on a pretty like big dose of an antidepressant. I think it was only like 100 milligrams. Yeah. Which is a decent dose.
Sure, for sure.
But I've just felt God, you know, he had helped me process it, and I just was able just to go off of it because he had really helped heal me. Yeah. And I don't know, like many of you guys don't know this, but the reality is like I don't know where I would be without this man sitting right here. Because there was a time that I talked about a little bit last podcast, but so 2022, the fall, I was struggling with, there were thoughts in my head that I could not cope with. Intrusive thoughts of suicide, thoughts that were scaring me to no end. And this man, I ran to him, and I was telling him what was in my mind, which was the scariest things I've thought of. And he treated me like I was a normal person. Like, he just treated me like I was like, oh, that's normal. And there was a time where there was an outreach event. It was a food truck night, and it was one of the things that I was in charge of running at the time. And so I ran it, but I was a complete mess of a human being. Ran it, you know, it was a great night. It had over 1,000 people there, and at the end of the night, I literally had I was having an anxiety attack so much that I went into his office and I just laid down he had a little sofa in his office. And I just put my head in a pillow and I was just crying. And he was there for me. just through those times where I thought that I was the only one who would ever dealt with this, or there's something seriously like I'm never going to be normal again. I'm never going to be able to think normally again. Like I was out there, and this man, just the love, he helped me process things. And he was like, he wasn't scared, and I was scared of my own thoughts. I was telling him he wasn't scared of them. And I did not, for those 3 weeks, I did not know if I was going to be alive, or if I wanted to even live in the reality that I was living in. And if it wasn't for this man and just the time and how he treated me, I don't know, I would not be here today. I can tell you that for a fact, and where I'm at. And so I'm so grateful for you, and what you've done for me and for listening to me and hearing me out.
That's love.
But yeah, so what would be some advice that you give? Say there's Christians over in here listening to us that are dealing with some anxiety, dealing with some depression. Let's just talk like those two main things. What would be some things you'd be looking out for? Like, okay, this is when you probably need to take the next step to go. Like this is beyond going to your pastor. Yeah. You know, you need to go to a counselor. And then if it is something that you feel like a level where they could manage it, could you give them some good coping skills or coping mechanisms to use to kind of combat those things? Yeah.
So I actually was dealing with this yesterday with somebody who reached out to me, and he was trying to figure out whether or not he needed to go to therapy. And I was like, the fact that you're asking me this question is probably a good indication that you probably should be going to therapy. Like the fact that you're at this point probably means that it's a good time to go. And so, truthfully, and not everybody may agree, but I think a good like rivalry of therapy is a healthy support system. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you are having a difficult time and you can go to your pastor, like do that, you know, talk to somebody, and go get that support, right? The Bible says in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. And that doesn't mean therapists. That word counselors actually translates to as a maintenance man to a machine, right? So being able to surround yourself with people who can help build you up in this time, like do that. But at the point where you realize like that it's just not clicking, like you're not breaking through, like that might be time to go ahead and like kick it up to like another level. Another level of care. So like if you're having those thoughts right now and you're like, man, I'm not sure what I should do, you probably should go get some professional help. And if you are worried about the condition that you're in right now, you probably should go to the hospital. Just go to the hospital. Just go, and even if it means that you're sitting in the waiting room, like, you know, if you're not sure if you're safe, like go to the hospital. And the church is getting better, but that stigma behind mental health is going to stop a lot of Christians from getting the help that they need. And don't do that. Like, don't do that to yourself. Go get the help that you need. As far as coping skills go, we probably could have a whole episode on that. But real quick, I would say, number one, you got to validate your experience, right? That's something that you and I were talking about. Is like, we want to quickly just like slap our hand and say, no, I can't do this. I can't be here. I can't think like this. Like, this can't be real. This can't be happening. And it's like, baby, the best way through it is through it. Like, you got to give yourself the space, like, to validate your experience and like what you're going through. Like, trying to tell yourself like, oh, like, it's not that deep. It's not going to help anybody. Like, if you come to me and you're like, Xavier, just get over it. I'm not going to go, I'm great. Yeah. Like, no one ever did that. Yeah. That's not going to help it. Like, and there's going to be people, especially other believers, who are going to be like, just pray it away, just pray it away, just pray it away. And hear me, as a Christian, as a minister, like, you definitely should give time to prayer. But I believe being a good steward of yourself and good steward of your body is going to get the help that you need. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to break your femur and be like, let me just pray that God will heal it. Like, that's not being a good steward. You know what I'm saying? So like, go and get the help that you need. But like,
so validating that
not
experience, not running away. Because I think that was one thing with me that we talked about was like it was almost the fear of validating it. Yeah, was what was giving it its power. Right. Rather than like actually validating and processing it and like taking it in, thinking on it, and thinking logically about it, rationally. Because once you think about it rationally, like, okay, like that's
Yeah.
That's not even a rational thought.
And here's the thing, like, it's like, if you don't give validation to it, it's like driving a supercar and going 200 miles an hour and then pressing the brake, but the brake line's cut. You have to be able to validate that experience to bring that neurological and emotional wall down so that your coping skills can work. You know what I'm saying?
Because what did you say? Like, you can't heal at crisis mode or something.
You can't heal in crisis mode.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, to be transparent, that's where you were at.
Yeah.
You were in crisis.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, it was so intensive, you know, you and I. And so being able to, like, to talk through some of those components, and it just, like, honestly, like, I could give you tips, and I can give you tips, but honestly, like, I'm not your therapist. You should just go see somebody and go get some professional help that's tailored to the experience that you're having right now. And that would be the best thing. You because not everything that you hear on Instagram or TikTok is going to apply to you. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's different. Everyone's medication regimen is going to be different. Everyone's treatment needs are going to be different. Just don't try to, you know, and you're trying to figure out, Pastor Xavier, how do I do this? How do I find out? All right. So I'm gonna give you some resources super quick. Like, your insurance has an exhaustive list of the places in your area that take your insurance. Call your insurance and say, hey, I'm having a difficult time. I need to find a therapist. Can you help me? They will. Right. If you don't have they will. So making sure that you do that. There's also a website called psychologytoday.com where you can go on there and literally type in your zip code, and it'll show you all the therapists in your area. You know what I'm saying? And so those are some big ways. And again, if you're having a difficult time and you feel like you're not making ground fast enough, go to the hospital. You know, they'll evaluate you. And even if they don't admit you overnight, like, they'll give you a resource list of how you can get some additional help. So, yeah.
And so, balancing that life sounds insane. How does that go with your family? Like, how do you and your family deal with the busyness of ministry, first of all? Because we are all aware of how just insane ministry can get, but at the same time, like, dealing with also you being a occupational therapist. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, how much do you psychoanalyze them?
Honestly, if I've met you, I've psychoanalyzed you. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I've met you, I've studied you already. You remember when you were introducing me to Cole for the first time?
To
Cole.
Andrew. Yeah.
And you were like, don't talk to him. He's gonna psychoanalyze you. Because actually, I was doing that to you, and you got mad at me for it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's invasive, and I'm sorry, but it's just how I'm wired. That's why I go get my clients from the door. I'm just kind of, because 80% of communication is body language. So I already know what kind of session we're going to have before you even say a word to me. You know what I'm saying?
What am I thinking right now?
You're thinking that you love me. And you're glad that I'm here.
I was thinking that was BS.
What is your thought process?
I'm not a mind reader.
What is your thought process go through when you psychoanalyze somebody? Like,
honestly, it's just like, I'm looking at them holistically. Yeah. What are they saying? What are they not saying?
I don't want to ask them. What do you thought?
That's not what I'm nervous about.
What's their tone? What's their disposition? Like, I can usually read somebody, like, if they're happy or not. Like, I can tell generally whenever someone's mustering up the strength to smile. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird. Like, you look at, there's so many, like, small things that are happening with you as a person holistically that you don't even realize it's happening, that I'm trained to look for. So I'm like,
that's a trained thing. That's not like you're just empathetic.
Well, I actually think that I have a spiritual gift of discernment. So I think that plus learning empathy, which I did learn empathy, because being from the Bronx in my background, I was like, suck it up. It's not that deep. But learning empathy and then having those clinical skills, it's just kind of like perfect storm. Like, it feels like a superpower, to be honest.
I feel like empathy is like a huge, we'll get back to my original question in just a second, but like, I feel like empathy is such a huge skill that's like missing out, especially in Gen Z. Because we are so cynical. We're insanely cynical. And we like want to mentally recognize these things. But when it comes down to it, like, we cannot bring ourselves to actually like relate to one another. What was like something that helped you really learn empathy?
I remember one assignment that did it. They had me do basically like a biopsychosocial assessment of myself, where I had to look at myself from a mental, emotional, physical, physiological, and spiritual element. I had to work through my childhood, a bunch of other stuff, and I remember like calling my mom and I'm bawling, and I was like, Mom, I can't remember anything before 10. Like I have no memories. Like why can't I think? I'm freaking out. And I realized like, oh my gosh, number one, I need help. I need to go see somebody. And second, it helped me to realize like how much is going on in me at the same time that I had no idea is happening. And it made me realize that there's a lot of people going through a lot of stuff. And in order for you to be able to practically help somebody, you have to care. Right. Like you have to be able to have what we call unconditional positive regard. It's like no matter what you're going through, and you're asking me what I was thinking about you, that's what I was thinking. Is that my friend was in a tough spot and I got to help him get help. You know what I'm saying? I got to make sure he goes see somebody, that he gets, he considers medication. If he needs to go to the hospital, if I have to take him there, I'm doing it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you get to a place where like, it's like, there's no judgment. It's like, because you can't be judgmental and be a therapist. Not a good one.
I feel like that translates even into your everyday interactions with people. Like, I noticed that empathy and thinking about the person actually as a person. Like when me and my wife get into arguments, like that is one of the biggest things. Is it really helps when I'm actually viewing her and who she is as a person versus just someone that I'm arguing with. Like I think that's a good life skill. And then in empathy, you learn to listen, to understand, not to respond. Right? Because if all I'm trying to do is respond to what you're saying to me, then I'm missing what you're looking like, what you're saying, like what your disposition is like. I'm missing all of who you are. And if I shift my mentality to like, what are they going through? I become quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. You know what I'm saying? And so
it's almost like God was telling us from the beginning.
It's almost like God was like, shut up and listen.
It's almost like you know he knew what he was talking about.
So to answer your question super fast is just that like, my wife is just so gracious. My wife is so gracious. And she just honestly just holds it down. She's a fantastic mother. She's a fantastic wife. She's a fantastic helpmeet. Like, I'm not sure how I would navigate this life without my wife. I don't know how I would do it. She is just like Shorty is my rib for real, you know, and being able.
Shut up.
That's cheap, not the cheap stuff. She's fine dining cuisine. Ain't no side.
She's famous days, no bro.
Dishes. She's the entree plus some. Oh, wow. And being able to just like, she's just that, and then also trying to maximize the time. Like I make it my mission to make sure that we're having quality time, spending quality time with my daughter, and try to protect boundaries. I didn't do as good of a job up front with that, and I was working crazy hours, and I was missing out a lot with my family, and so having to autocorrect, you know, some of that, and you know it. But honestly, I view therapy as ministry. So it doesn't feel any different. Like when I'm leaving Rosedale halfway through a Tuesday and I'm going into the city, it don't feel no different. You know what I'm saying? So like it all just kind of blends together for me, and I'm just using the skill set that God gave me. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really feel any different.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was thinking of, so what do you think about Christian counseling versus like secular counseling? And like what would you say, like if there is a Christian listening that wants to get counseling, like would you say, hey, try to find a Christian counselor? Would you say, like, what would your advice be on that end?
So looking for something like more ethereal versus more nuthic. Like
whatever that means.
Spiritual versus like non-spiritual. And so honestly, so I'm a Christian who is a counselor, but I am not a Christian counselor. And what that means is, Pastor Toole, if you're listening, this is the truth. I'm sorry. Like, if you're sitting across from me, I'm not here to save your marriage. If it's from a therapist perspective, I'm not here to save your marriage. I'm here to put all the pieces out in front of you, and y'all got to make a decision with it. That's the way that it rolls. That's the difference. Now, if I'm doing a pastoral counseling, then the hat is different, because honestly, what are my values? My values are the sanctity of marriage. My values are pro-life. My values are, but in the therapist room, it's not about my values. It's about yours. And my job is to help you sort, so you know what you need to do, what you want to do. I tell people I don't give advice. I'm a reflection. I'm a soundboard. I'm going to hold your hand to your own conclusion. But I'm not. And there are couples that have called it quits in front of me. And it ripped my heart in half. But I know, like, pastoral me would be like, nah, you got to fight for this. Like, stick it out, stick it out, stick it out. But that's not what they came to me for. They signed the HIPAA agreement. And, like, if I did that from a ethical standpoint, I'm imposing my values on the client. So that's why I love when somebody comes in and they just want pastoral or spiritual care, because now I can be like, you being a bonehead, like go home to your wife and go fix that. You know what I'm saying? But I can't say that because in the therapeutic realm. So that's a tension I had to fight really hard.
But would you have would you have them like would there be practices that could give you that spiritual, like Christian guidance as well?
Yeah, like I mean,
so would you point, like what I'm asking is, would you point direct Christians more towards the Christian side if they can find that, or would you?
So whenever somebody fills out an intake form, I ask them up front, what do you want? Do you want you want a pastor? You want somebody giving you the biblical approach to this, or do you want the therapeutic, because they're not the same? Mm-hmm. So I give them that psychoeducation up front. Mm-hmm. And so if they're like, yeah, I would like to have like I need to know like spiritually how to go through this, I'm like, bet, then let's get it set up, and I'll push them toward. And so like I have a good referral list even that is split up between like more secular counselors and then somebody who's going to give you a more spiritual approach. And so you're supposed to tailor the experience to the person anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like if I just kind of ask them what their needs are, what they want.
Do you think that there is a spot where secular counseling would actually like go against like what God's word would say? Yeah. Sure. So would you like?
There's some.
That's the tension that I have. Is like if people
for sure
like sending people to somewhere that would then contradict what God's word says. Mm-hmm. That's the tension that I battle.
Yeah.
Like as a pastor, is like, oh yeah, go to counseling. And then they're gonna disagree with what God says. And I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
Well, the truth is, like a good therapist, that's none of their business.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons I chose to become like I chose the counselor track is because like I didn't choose to be a marriage and family therapist. I didn't choose to just go through like a Christian, to get like a Christian certification. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but this gives me the freedom. And also like my spirituality background, right, gives me a superpower, right? Because now I can bridge two worlds. So somebody can come in and I can be like, hey, like I can show you. And here's the truth. Like if it's not explicit biblical counseling, implicit biblical counseling permeates my sessions all the time. You don't know that was Proverbs, but it was. You don't know that was a teaching of Jesus, but it was. You know what I'm saying? But as many humanistic components as there are to like counseling, there's a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy aligns with the Bible so well. And so there's a lot of modalities that bridge that. And so honestly, I say that to say like a good counselor will tailor that experience, even if they don't have a good, strong spirituality background. Like they'll say like, it sounds like your faith is important to you. How is that being incorporated into how you're living your life? Are you praying? Are you reading your Bible? Like what are your practices that help you to navigate this? And so that's their job. So even if they don't have a spiritual background, they should still, like if it's up to the clients, it's what the client wants, then they should be pushing them in that direction. So, but if they want a Christian counselor, I'll push them that way.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what they want.
That's a good question. I mean, do you have anything else for him?
Man, let me tell you, this was just an absolute blast. I loved this one.
Do you have anything else?
I barely said anything because I just wanted to soak it in.
Do you have anything else, X, that you want to share? Like as a mic drop.
As a mic drop.
Encore.
Yeah.
Don't actually drop the mic.
I'll say this.
They're expensive.
Like, you have to validate your own experience. That's one of the number one things that I'm dealing with, both in like the pastoral realm and also in the therapeutic realm, is that we are not advocating for yourself. You're not advocating for yourself enough. Like, so there are two versions of you sitting in this room right now, right? There's the version that's sitting here and talking to me, and that person is, you can portray whatever version of that person that you want. You can wear your heart on your sleeves, or you can be stone cold and nobody could ever know what's going on. Like that person can take the darts against every time they got passed over at work, every time someone said something hurtful to them, every time, anything happened that hurt them, they can put on the armor right now that nobody can see. As a matter of fact, I got a really terrible call before this podcast episode, and honestly, I've been trying to hold it together this whole time. You know what I'm saying? But I get to put on whatever this face is that you get to see right now. And so, but there's an internal version of you, I call the little you. So for the sake of illustration, I'll say the little Xavier, who doesn't get the luxury of dodging the arrows. He doesn't get to dodge the dart. He felt every time he was passed over, every time they talked bad about him, every time he was mistreated, he feels all of those different things. Now, the external you can be supported. I can talk to you. You and I had that experience together. Like, you can see a counselor, a therapist, your pastor. People can lay hands on you and pray over you. They can do all of those other things for the external you, the armored you. But the internal you doesn't get a say, right? And they don't have, if you are not supporting that internal you, they have zero support. Zero.
I feel like the counseling helps get that little you out.
Yeah.
to the external you.
Can I spiritualize it?
Yeah.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it
was
are all the
NIV?
issues of life. Yeah, it was.
Was that
It was CSB, right? The premise is that like there's a lot of things happening internally that will manifest outwardly, right? And that little you is going to like control what's happening externally. And so you speak to her, you speak to him, you take care of her, you take care of him, and you'll see what happens on the external component. But if you're letting people push you around because they don't agree with what you're experiencing, which is weird, like you can't, if you step on my foot, you can't tell me that didn't hurt me. You feel me? So like being able to like, so you have to support you, right? And I mean, think about this super quick, right? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, all thy might. And the second is like unto the first, that you will love your neighbor as yourself, right? Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might present to the glorious church, not having any spot or wrinkle or any such thing, right? But no man ever yet hated his flesh, for he nourisheth and cherisheth it. So shall a man love his wife. You know what I'm saying? Galatians 6 says to bear each other's burdens, but in the verses 4 and 5 it says everyone must bear their own burden. So there's a level of egocentrism that's important, because we see the standard for taking care of others is what? How we take care of ourselves. If I don't know how to love me,
put the mask on before putting
right?
When you're on an airplane, put your own mask on first.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Because here's the truth: if I try to put my daughter's mask on first and I pass out, we're both done for.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So being able to like take care of you sounds selfish, but like when you push yourself to the bottom of the rung, like you can't offer the support. We don't pour from a half cup or a full cup, or even like, we pour from a cup that's running over. You got to pour from the excess. You feel me? And so being able to take care of you affords you the ability to take care of others. And I've told parents that time and time again, if you burn out, your kids are done. You have to be able to take care of you, or you can't take care of your marriage. You can't take care of your kids. So it's going to sound like, oh, you sound very humanistic and secular, but I think I just supported that biblically, that there's an element of like taking care of yourself, that a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a sorrowful spirit dries the bones. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be able to take care of yourself, and then you can take care of others. So this is going to sound super humanistic, but like focus on you a little bit. Take care of you, support you, love you. Right, love you the way that God loves you. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Galatians 1 or Genesis 1. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Like there's a level of support for you that you have to have, right? And then you'll be able to take care of others. So like, fix your brake line.
Validate
Validate
your experience.
Yeah,
and that kind of ties in what you said before. Surround yourself with people that you can actually be open and transparent with, and not feel like you have to hide everything. Because I feel like a lot of times we just hide things, and you can't. Like other people can help you if you're not telling them either. Right. So, and especially now, some of us, it'll seep. Like we'll try to hide it, but it'll seep through. They can tell. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're somebody like me who reads people well. Yeah. But like for most of us, my youth pastor was so shocked. Why? Because I was suffering in silence. I didn't tell nobody. I was happy at school. I was in these leadership roles. I had a 3.8 GPA. Like nobody knew I was suffering. I was getting ready to go home. As a matter of fact, my friend Mark Williams, rest in peace to Mark, was one of the most popular kids at my school. Went home. I saw him on the 6 o'clock news. Hung himself in his closet. Shocked the whole student body. You know what I'm saying? It does nobody any benefit to suffer in silence. Like validate your experience and get some support. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah, that's awesome. Amen. I appreciate you taking time to share with us. I think there's a lot of beneficial things from that. So you got anything, Andrew? We'll close this out.
Listen, like you said, how you owe so much to this man. He also helped me through like the roughest time in my life that I had about a year ago. And so, I mean, it's real. It's real. I was a guy that like shoved everything just off to the side for a while, because before that I was so inundated with an idea that like I had depression, but I never did. But I feel like there were a lot of pressures around me telling me that I had to have depression. That like tricked yourself into it. I don't know. It sounds stupid, but so after that point, I kind of was like, this stuff is stupid. This is dumb. Emotions are ridiculous. I'm not dealing with it. And then like it all hit a wall, and I realized like I was not being a good husband, was not being a good son. Thank God I didn't have a kid. I wouldn't have been a good father by any metric. But it's through like people like X and other individuals that dedicate their lives to this kind of mission that really made the rest was just function, just on a baseline level. And I appreciate that.
It's all love. Always was.
Always.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you for joining us and what you shared with us. And thank you for joining us. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
See ya.